Hello, good evening, all, and welcome to day 5 of week 3 in the training. Yeah, just trying to fix some bugs that actually happened earlier on. So, let me just okay, let me leave this. So, good day, all. I believe everybody's here. Let's just give them some time to actually join. So, it's no longer a legend of mine. The jobs are out there. You just have to upskill yourself to actually meet with what employers want to employ. That is actually why you paid for the training. We are here to give you all the best and everything you need to get those jobs outside there because our success relies on your success. So let's just move straight. Let me share my screen. We are actually rounding up the port scanner project. So we'll be looking at it once more today. I think I prepared this. Let me save it as PDF and share with you people. Sorry, 1 minute.
Good evening, Mr. Ikem.
Yeah, good evening.
I think I'm only one online.
You are not the only one. There are other people there.
Oh, okay, sir.
You are not the only one. So I think the first thing I need to share with you guys. So I broke down the stuff into that. So you can view this and view your script. So let me bring it up. So I broke them into about 6 parts. Yes, 6 parts. so that you can understand it clearly. That's the script. So we use that as our guide. So we are rounding up this particular project today. Now the first part is where you call what? Where you call the functions, the libraries, sorry. Let me see how many people are here. We only have 4 people here today. What happened? What happened to everybody? Where are the other people? Okay. I say we move ahead. So I think I apologize for actually bringing up the stuff late. So now we started with the first port. Sorry. So that would be gedit class 2-1.py. No, this is the second one. Try to remember. I'm thinking gedit. Let me say ls class 2py. So we started with gedit class 2py.py. Wow, it's something else. Sorry. Can somebody remind me actually what's the first stuff we did? The first one we did. Because I'm trying to remember. Okay, what's kind of one now? 2.1, 2.2. Let me see gedit. Oh. No, not this. No, not this. Then which one exactly is the... let me say gedit. I'm trying to look for the first one we wrote, port scanner. It's not this. I'm not seeing the class 2.py anymore. I don't think I have it here. It's not in my Python. I don't have anything like that. Okay, this is it. I wonder why it is not. Okay, I've not executed it. Okay, this is the first stuff we wrote. Okay, let me save. Sorry guys. I wonder why. Claire, It has not been executed. Proceed mode. 7, sorry. My ls. We now have class 2.py. So when I gedit, so this is the first stuff we did. So what I would advise you do, like your note taking, bring up a Word, open a Word document, Control N, you title it Port Scanner Project. You now write 1, simple port scanner. Scanning port 80 with IP address. You come here, screenshot, so in this particular stuff, what did we modify? We now move to the next. Sorry. So I think I should just bring it up from this other place. So that you can get it clearly. So that's the first stuff we did. Now, what modification did we do to that particular script? What modification did we do to that particular script? So, supposed to do a revision. Basically, what we did here was to call out the functions. We actually write that IP address is the variable. We created variables. Then we now declared port 80. Then we now called up the function. No, that's not at that stage, please. We have not gotten to that stage. Yes, scanning multiple ports. So what are the commands we actually added in scanning multiple ports? What did we change? So you can close this. So that should be what? Gedit class 2-1.py. So this is the one that makes you be able to scan what? Multiple ports. So what exactly did we change? Can somebody tell me what did we change compared to this? Compared to this. You can unmute yourself and talk. We've already written the script. Okay. You are just doing final analysis. You can unmute yourself
Yes.
as well.
Yeah,
No,
Mr.
boss.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I think someone is about to talk.
No, Bona wants to talk. Bona, no problem. You can talk.
Okay.
Okay, for this one,
What did
we
you change?
removed the port 80. Port 80 was removed that was specified from the first one, and we add a function, a new function called scanner underscore port, with two parentheses, two parameter rather,
Parameter.
IP address. Yes, IP address and the port address. So and it now add every other things that where we declare the new socket, the socket that is assigned to variable sock, which is now the variable sock is now having other instances like socket dot. I think it's a method socket dot statement set timeout and socket dot
I'm not getting you clearly. I think
connect.
this is what you have in the first. Can you see the screen? This is what you have. So what exactly did you add to SOC? Because we imported socket library, we imported IPY, but in this particular one, we've not used IPY. I hope you understand. What we only used was just socket. Socket library is used to connect what to the internet. So I want you guys to understand it now that you've written it. This part is to understand clearly. You understand? Understand clearly what you did so that you are not second guessing. Now you imported two libraries, socket and what IPY. Now in the first one, you did not use IPY. You declared a variable. The two variables you are using is what? IP address and port. Now the first variable enables you to do what? To type in the IP address that you want to actually scan. Now the port was hard-coded to what? Port 80. Are you getting it? Second variable, the first variable. You declare two variables. Now you actually went ahead to actually define what? How you use your socket. Try socket sock equals socket.socket. Sock.connect, declaring the two variables, IP address and port. Print out port 80 is open if you can connect, except print out port 80 is closed. Do you all understand it that way now? If you understand it, now the first instance you did what? You declared two what? Libraries. You imported two libraries. The first library is what? Socket. The second library is from IPY, you imported IP. Now you now declare two variables. The essence of the first variable is to actually allow you impute the IP address you want to scan. You had coded what? The second variable. Now in every stage, you are still using these two variables, but it's just that you are expanding the what? The capacity of the variable. Now, this variable you declared here, you can only enter its IP address. Now, for the other variable, you can only enter what? Port. Now, you now use the library you actually imported. You use a more like a try and except statement. Try sock.socket. You can call this sock anything. It's not necessary it's sock. You can call it whatever you want to call it, but here we call it sock. Sock equals what? Socket.socket. Sock.connect, IP address and port. That's the function you declared here using the socket library. You can call this what? Anything. You can call it mic. I think, and I've actually explained that before. So mic.connect, quoting the two variable IP address. Now print, if you can connect, print port 80 is open, except print port 80 is closed. Do you guys understand it that way? Can you now make a note like this under and actually send to me? With this explanation I've given you, make a note like that under it and send to me, so that we will take it that way. Now, tell me one. We imported two variables. One socket. Sorry, two libraries. Socket, then two IPY, from IPY imported IP. Declared two variables. One IP address. Two port. Are you getting it? Now, port was what? Hard-coded to what? Hard-coded to port 80. While IP address, type in the IP address. Are you getting it? Now, we use a try and accept connected three. Sorry, Control Z. Control Z. You guys understand it? So when it comes to note taking, so as you're looking your notes, you understand what you did. Then you do what? We connected using SOC. We use the try and accept command to connect sockets. Simple. That you finish that. You understand? It makes it as simple as ABC. So you can come here. I'm sure so you can put this note under that. Please, if you now understand it better, we imported two library. You understand? So you must understand what you're doing. Now, we now said we want to actually so we now further said the next step is what? We want to look at how we allow this thing to be able to scan what? Multiple ports. That was the next step we took. Now, what and what did we change? Now, from the variable, what and what did we change? Now, for the first variable we have is what? We move this variable, we move this variable, we move that variable down here. Now, we actually now modify, we still left it this way, input what? Enter target to start. All we now we want to allow it to actually scan multiple IP. We now bring in what? A for loop. Now we now define what? For IP in range 1 to 50, scan port address with variable. Now we now defined what? The function using what? Scan port. I believe you understand this one now so that you get it clearly. The first is writing this. We defined scan port. We brought this now. First variable did not change. Are you getting it? Second variable for port, that is what you did. What you changed. You changed second variable to what? For port in range so and so. So you modify second variable to actually take using what? A for loop. Now, this is what you changed. First variable did not change. Second variable changed. Are you getting it? This is what was changed. For port in range what? Scan port, IP address, and port. Now, you now came and defined. Sorry. You came and you define scan port. Now, scan port, the function using two parameters, IP address and port. Now, this is the first time you use the function in the what? In the program. You now made all these previous, you made them fit into the what? The function. Now, we now modified what? This, I don't know if I've pasted this. We now modified this particular stuff. Okay, I think I've pasted that. So you defined function. Defined function with two parameters, IP address and port, which we have actually tried this one before. Now, that's the second thing you did. Can you get it clearly? Now, we now modified the try and accept statement. So when you come here, all you do is what? You pick this. So if you want to take your notes, you pick this. So you pick this. You can snap this first, copy this first, and paste on your note taking. So scanner 2, scanning multiple ports with IP address. So first thing you did was redefined variable 2 port with a for loop. Spacing, expanding the range to 50. 2. Created a function called scan underscore port with IP address and port as parameters. Do you guys now understand? The third thing you did was what? You modified the try and accept statement. Then 4, added sock.connect, sock.set timeout. To regulate the scan timing. Hello, are you guys still here with me? Please, if you are still here, tell me yes, please. So are you saying it? So when you are looking at your notes, you can actually be sure that you are seeing what you did. Are you saying it? Now, after having been, are you saying what? Is there any other thing? Okay. Is there any other thing we did outside this? I don't even know if you guys are all here. Okay. The class is now complete. So this is how you take notes so that you are not cramming it. You know what you are doing. Sorry, I just want to reduce the. I think there's a lot of overhead on this stuff. Let me just close most of them. they've been on for a while. Sorry, let me just close document 6. I think you will now have this. Let me close this. Okay, that's fine. So that is how we arrived at the second part. So that is how we actually arrived at this port scanner 2. Now, port scanner 3, what exactly do you want to do? We want it to be able to scan what without inputting IP address. Are you guys following me? Now, so it's in port scanner 3, we now call the function of what? We now, in port scanner 3, up till now, we have not used the function of what? From IPY import IP. Imputing IP address. So how did we arrive at that? That's the first time we use what? Port scanner what? The IP address. So the first thing we did was you go back to your what? Go back to the two variables. If you notice, all we have been changing is just what? The two variables defined. IP address and what? Port. The first one, we actually left it as port equals 80. Second one, we redefined it for port in range 1 to 50. The third one, we changed it to converted IP equals check underscore IP for IP address. Now we now go for port in range. For ports in range, we still left that part. Now, in the third part, this is what you added. Now let's bring up the third one. Save. Gedit class 2.2.py. So if you look at it, it's the same thing, but for the stuff we changed for this one. Now, please, before we go, how many variables do we have in this particular program? We have 2 variables. We keep modifying the variables. One was what? First, it was IP address and port. The second is still what? IP address and what? Scan port. It became for port in scan port. We defined it as scan port. Now, the third part, it becomes what? Converted IP. The parameters, we change the parameter from what? IP address to what? Converted IP. This one now, we redefine this as from IP. In the second one, it was what? IP address. We define a function called what? Scan port. Now, in the third one, we remove this parameter. Scan port is still a function. We remove the parameter and actually call it what? Converted IP, simply because we want it to be able to actually take a domain name. So instead of writing IP address, what? We call it what? Converted IP. Now, converted IP is equal to check underscore IP, which what? The parameter is what? The variable is what? IP address. Please, if you are following up to this stage, so that you don't get it, you understand what we are doing. The first one is just what? type port equals 80. The second one we did was what? Simply, you say for port in range so and so, you brought in scan port so that it can scan. Now the third one, you want to actually make what? It will be able to scan, not IP address. You change the parameter to what? Converted IP, and you declare that converted IP is equals to check IP, which is what? IP address. You now went up to now define what? What did you define? We went upstairs to define, write a function to define what? Check IP. Now, we now brought you converted IP equals check IP, which is IP address. We now defined, this is the first time we are calling this library. Now, the whole essence of this function here is what? Is to actually properly make this converted IP work. Now, IP, now we defined check IP, define check IP with a single parameter called what? IP address. Now, try IP. If it actually gets it, return IP. Now, like I explained, this function is for what? When you input what? Your IP address. Else, if you don't input your IP address and you actually input a website, use socket.getHost by name to get the IP address and return what? The IP address. So with this, it started making it to work. Every other thing here, nothing was changed from the second. So all you modified was what? You brought in a converted IP, changed the parameter so that it can be able to do what? To take both IP and domain name. So if you want to explain this, you screenshot this. I believe you people are now, you now have a better understanding of all what you did. You come here, you paste it, and you give the explanation. Simple. 1, to enable an IP address, you modify the parameter IP address in function scan underscore port. That's the first thing you did. Introduced use variable converted IP underscore IP is equals to check underscore IP. A single parameter with a single parameter IP address. So what was it only? We defined the function check underscore IP with a single parameter IP using calling the IPY library and using try and accept statement. We created a statement to allow the program check IP or get host by name. End of story. That is what you did. Please, if you are following me, can you just say yes so that you understand what you did? It's a project. You are supposed to be able to explain it this way. Is there any other person there understanding what we are doing? So as you are, all we have been changing are what? Two variables, IP address and port. As we are writing, as we are changing them, we are defining functions to make them work. Because the only two things you are scanning in this program is what? IP address and what? Function. Now, do you understand it up to this point? If you're understanding, there are by 11 people here, not just only Gbogbola that is here. So before we move to the after this time, I can share this note with you. We're not coming back to actually take port scanner. You have all the notes on how to write port scanner from the simplest one to the most complex one. So you can review what you have done up to this point before we now take the last part. So I can now take questions. So now we've gotten to the point where we can scan multiple ports. Then we can now scan what? Domain name or IP. Now, the last part we did was where we can scan multiple domain names, including IP, then scan multiple ports, then grab banner. No, we don't share doc, please. We don't share doc. Any document leaving us in the name of Think Cyber, you will never ever get it as doc. You get it as PDF so that you don't, because we don't know how far that document will go. So we don't share documents. So you can, if you want to convert it to doc on your own, you can convert it. So whatever leaves us, it comes with our logo, and it's actually, so if you are asking for notes, so this is what a note should look like. So, port scanner 4. Multiple domain name and multiple ports. If you are all here, let me know. I believe you've written all your, if you have actually written your code up till this point 3 and they're all working, just tell me yes. Because now you understand all what we did. You don't need to cram them. You just need to sit down and look at it very, very well. So you understand what we are doing, so that as you are moving to other projects, you are now learning it very well. So you can review for the next 10 to 15 minutes. We'll continue by 8:30 so that we don't rush it. This is the final stuff on port scanner. Hello. So we are back. So for every time instance you change anything, you go back and actually define a function. Now, for the last one, so that it's a weekend, so that I don't take so much of your time. Now, for the last one we did, what did we do? Now we want to actually be able to scan what? Names, sorry, multiple IP address, not just one, then scan multiple ports. So what we did was to what? We redefine what? Sorry, we redefine the IP address. We'll now turn it to what? Targets. So we can enter multiple. Every other time you can only enter one instance. We want to make it to be able to take so many instances. So we redefine it to what? So you close this. I'm not sure that can actually take. Let me see if it can take one single screen. So gedit. So like you see, there's nothing hard. When you hack it down, the Silicon Valley method of doing, they call it agile. You hack big stuff down into simple. That's why I broke it down into 6, that PDF, so that you can understand each. Now, when you now relate it with this, your notes, you can see how we now arrive at that 500 Pro. Hack it down into simple, into chunk. By the time you put everything together, it becomes very easy for you. So if we look at it, ports. So this is what we want to do. The first thing we want to do is to what? We want it to be able to take so many stuff. So the first thing we did was to redefine what this place. We redefined this particular first place. That's the first thing we do. Now, what we did was to do what? We add X into the target. Now, we now say split multiple targets with comma. End of story. So when you are actually, so when this is more like a variable. Now, for comma in targets, for IP underscore add, we actually, now this is an if statement. For IP underscore add in target dot split with IP, scan, this is where the next function, the next function, scan IP underscore add dot strip, and actually put space in between them. So now when you come back, we now later went to define the function here. We now brought about a function called what? Define scan, which is what? The parameter is what? Target. The parameter is what? Called target. Now, so converted IP, we now brought back that converted IP, that first converted IP equals what? Check underscore IP. At this time around, it's no longer what? IP address, but we gave it what? Target. So we changed all those IP to what? Target, because we've changed IP address. That is why they changed to target. Now print what? This one is just to tell you, this particular line here is just to show you that it is scanning. Now we now still brought back what? That particular statement for range into this what? So and so. Scan port, converted IP and port. So nothing really was this. So for the fourth thing, the only thing we added was this. So anytime you change anything, you come over to define what? The function. I don't know if I've pasted this. Sorry. So I don't know if I pasted it now. So for the fourth one, I don't know how you're going to do it. Maybe you're going to take it into so maybe you're going to take it in 2 tranche. You can pick it this way. So I don't know if you now follow through with what exactly we are trying to do. So this 28, you can pick this one, copy. Then you now pick from 29 till the end. So the first thing is you write one to enable us and multiple domain name and IP address. We changed IP variable to targets. Two, we created an if statement to enable us list the domain names with comma, separating them. You can put it like this, comma, separating them, the inputs and scan. We defined a scan statement and replace IP address with targets. We defined a scan function. Then I think the last thing we did was I think that's just we replace all those where you have IP address, it was replaced with what? Target. I hope you saw that. Sorry, let me bring this back. In this particular stuff, your check IP underscore IP, what the parameter there was what? IP address. Immediately you change this one to target. Now, in this particular place, your check IP underscore IP becomes what? Target. So that, and once that was handled, that part is solved. Then the other thing we did was so that we can grab banner. Okay, so you can put a pause on that there. That is what we did there. Then if you don't want to add port scanner, banner grabber. Find the banner grabber function. The variable modified the try and accept. So if you come here or come back here, this is the first thing we did. We defined this. Then we modified this particular try and accept statement under scan port. So those are the two things that was done. So that is the end of this port scanner project. So paste. So that's the notes. I've attached it to you guys to actually look at. So at this point in time, I'll pause and see if you have questions to ask. So that is how you arrive at that final space. That's the note. So if you have any question to ask, I'm all ears. So that's the explanation of what you've been doing. So next week we move to another project. So with that, you can actually add that to the tools you have for your arsenals. Anybody with question? So that is how you arrived at that place where you got to. So I don't know if anybody has question to ask. So it's for your consumption. You understand? So that you can understand what you are doing. See, there are a lot of, I don't know, there are a lot of half-baked people. And I believe the reason why you are taking this training. Now, don't actually, it's a scorecard. If in an interview, this particular stuff was exactly an interview question, and you open up the script and you actually tell the interview people, the interview or the company, this is how, what and what this is to do, who do you think they will take? So if you understand what you do up to this point of details, as you are doing it, by the time you start adding more knowledge to it, you get to a point, you will not know that you are adding good knowledge. You get to a point when you talk, people will know that you know what you are saying. Are you getting it? So if you want to walk into an interview and get the job the first day, they call it paying attention to details. So there are different people who open their mouth and say, "Kru, kru, kru, you can get a cybersecurity job without being a code, writing code." It has grades. But if you are going for the best, you want to actually build a career where you want to start earning $120, $150 per annum, this is how you do it. Because at the top, when you go for, by the time you listen to, maybe one of these days, I will share some videos with you. Nobody does all these things. Nobody's telling you. They expect by that level, you now know it. We are looking at, okay, they are taking a red team training on what? On attacking cloud infrastructure. What they will just say from port scanner, if you actually reverse it, so and so code, because they expect you know all those basics. That is why we are taking time. So that it's easier for you to climb up if your foundation is strong. If your foundation is poor, you just come out, maybe you got 1 or 2 jobs, you'll be stunted there for life. So when you are learning anything, learn the right way. It saves you time. It saves you money. That's why I had to that. It's for your consumption. So that when you talk, the difference is clear. So that you break it down. From the first PDF and the second PDF, that is actually how you hack it down. That is all about the codes. I've sent you 2 PDFs now. So if you read through them, coupled with what you've written, now those are the steps in which you arrived at and the first PDF. I'm sure you won't have any question coming on Tuesday. You understand clearly how we got to those places and what we did. So if anybody has any question to ask with this, it's like the expo to that part. That's how I broke it down so that you can understand. And moving forward, let your note taking be in this pattern. The Linux note taking, and so that when you are looking at what you have done, you will appreciate what you paid money to learn. So note taking is very key. Now you can take notes again with Notepad. Note taking, so that by the time you actually are reviewing what you did, week 1, week 2, week 3, you understand? You can take one. You can use Notepad to take note taking. So you develop your own means of note taking, so that you have something to review. I don't know what you people read, because all you get from us is course outline and course manual, but you should develop your own way of taking notes, that as you are reading it, you actually can understand what to do. So that's actually, I made it that simple, so that you can actually use that as a standard for note taking, so that when we're writing further codes, you know things to target. All we did in this part, we are just remodifying the variables. As we are remodifying the variables, new functions are coming up to make the variables work better, because the aim of this port scanner is just to scan IP address and what? Port. So all we did was to ensure that it was scanning multiple ports, multiple IP address. Now, when we get the port that is open, we wanted to investigate what exactly or softwares are running in those ports. That's why we brought in the banner grabber. So the first thing you define is what? What exactly are we trying to achieve? That is essence of writing a code. We are trying to be able to scan websites, see the port that is open, and possibly grab banners or whatever a port that is open. So that is how we arrived at that junction. So I'm sure you guys don't have any question, because I'm actually giving you a QED. What's your marble? So you can tell me if you have any question. I'm actually all ears. Do you guys have any question? So, in the absence of no question, I would advise you go sleep and pray to God to open good doors for you, because from here we are giving you all the knowledge you need. So, thanks guys once more for coming around for the training. Here we do it like it's done anywhere in the world. So you can have those notes, review, and actually get back to me if you have any question. So once more, thanks for coming around and enjoy your weekend.